Catherine has not been seen in public since Christmas Day, but why are they making this announcement now? Well, today was the final day of the spring term at their children's school. So this is the Lambrook School. Of course, their three children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, attend that school. Today was their final day in school. They are not due back until after Easter, not due back in school until April 17th. So certainly hearing from officials that part of the reason for the timing of bringing this announcement to the public now was that the Prince and Princess of Wales did not want their three young children in school when all of this information became public, instead wanting them to be at home so that they can be shielded from the coverage. Because, of course, as you can imagine, there will be plenty of coverage, plenty of talk on this in the hours and days ahead. We do now want to take you to Washington because the White House press secretary has also just spoken about the Princess of Wales's diagnosis. Let's listen into that.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I wanted to just start off at the top that we just heard. Obviously, all of us just heard the terrible news. Our thoughts are with the Duchess of Cambridge and her family members and friends during this incredibly difficult time. And certainly we wish her a full recovery. And I think it's important that we respect their privacy, especially at this time. So I'm not going to go further than that. I will do one more thing before that, though. I know folks are going to ask if the president has spoken to her or the family. I can just say right now that we don't have anything to share at this time. But obviously, we wish the Duchess of Cambridge a full recovery, and we are incredibly sad to hear of the news.
Send her a note.
I don't have anything to share at this time. This news just broke, obviously, so we are taking this in, this terrible news, as all of you are, and so just don't have anything to share. We want to make sure that we certainly respect their privacy at this incredibly difficult time, not just for her, but her family. So I'll just leave it there.
Okay, we were just listening in there briefly to today's White House update. You could hear there at the White House press secretary also reacting to this news that Catherine, the Princess of Wales, has been diagnosed with cancer, saying that this is very, very sad news. Obviously also saying that this news had just broken, so they didn't have a lot to add other than the fact that their thoughts are with the princess and her young family. So that's a little bit more of what we just heard. Okay, well, the CBC's Michelle Gassoub is also following all of this, and she joins us now with more. So, Michelle, there's a lot to go through here. I'm wondering if you can please take us through what it is that we're learning at this hour.
Yeah, so just moments ago, we saw an official video of Kate Middleton for the first time. We know this was filmed about 2 days ago in Windsor, and in the video, she says that she went in for major abdominal surgery in London back in January. That had been the official line from the palace that we already knew, but that at the time, they believed that her condition was non-cancerous. However, after the surgery, further tests revealed that she did have cancer, so she went through a round of preventative chemotherapy. She talked about the difficulty of, one, having to recover from that initial major abdominal surgery, and then two, having to undergo chemotherapy after that. So saying, you know, this has been a very difficult time, not only for her health, but having to explain these circumstances to her children. So she said she would take time, she needed privacy, and just talking about how this has been an incredibly difficult few months for the royals. Of course, she's now the second senior royal to be diagnosed with cancer in a very, very short amount of time. She also thanked her medical team, and she talked about other people who are suffering from cancer, her well wishes to them as well. So quite something to see her speaking out, especially given the speculation about where she has been, and then quite striking to see her addressing this very directly to people around the world via video.
Well, as you can imagine, there's going to be a lot of reaction coming our way, but if you can just start by taking us through some of what is already out there.
Yes, the first major statement we've seen has been from Rishi Sunak, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, of course, saying his thoughts are with her, and then going on to say she has shown tremendous bravery with her statement today. In recent weeks, she has been subjected to intense scrutiny and has been unfairly treated by certain sections of the media around the world. and on social media, going on to say when it comes to matters of health, like everyone else, she must be afforded the privacy to focus on her treatment and be with her loving family. So there, he's alluding to the speculation that we've seen all over social media for the past few weeks, even months, as people have wondered where she is, people putting forward their different theories. So he's addressing that quite directly now. Also, as we just heard from Washington, D.C., them not confirming whether President Biden had reached out directly to the royal family. But if you go on social media now, as this has played out on social media over the few weeks, now we see that reaction coming in. People saying this is very shocking. They're processing this. Obviously, this is someone with a very young family, someone who has been in the public eye for a very long time. So we will continue to track reaction to this. We know there will be lots coming throughout the day.
Okay, Michelle, like you say, we know that you'll be watching. Thank you for this.
And a reminder now of our breaking news. If you're just joining us, Kensington Palace has just announced about 35 minutes ago that Catherine, the Princess of Wales, has cancer. It has released a video of her revealing specific details. Here it is.
I wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you personally for all the wonderful messages of support and for your understanding whilst I've been recovering from surgery. It has been an incredibly tough couple of months for our entire family, but I've had a fantastic medical team who have taken great care of me, for which I'm so grateful. In January, I underwent major abdominal surgery in London, and at the time, it was thought that my condition was non-cancerous. The surgery was successful. However, tests after the operation found cancer had been present. My medical team therefore advised that I should undergo a course of preventative chemotherapy, and I'm now in the early stages of that treatment. This, of course, came as a huge shock, and William and I have been doing everything we can to process and manage this privately for the sake of our young family. As you can imagine, this has taken time. It has taken me time to recover from major surgery in order to start my treatment, but most importantly, it has taken us time to explain everything to George, Charlotte and Louis in a way that's appropriate for them and to reassure them that I'm going to be okay. As I've said to them, I am well and getting stronger every day by focusing on the things that will help me heal in my mind, body and spirits. Having William by my side is a great source of comfort and reassurance too, as is the love, support and kindness that has been shown by so many of you. It means so much to us both. We hope that you'll understand that as a family, we now need some time, space and privacy while I complete my treatment. My work has always brought me a deep sense of joy, and I look forward to being back when I'm able. But for now, I must focus on making a full recovery. At this time, I'm also thinking of all those whose lives have been affected by cancer. For everyone facing this disease, in whatever form, please do not lose faith or hope. You are not alone.
And that was Catherine, the Princess of Wales, giving us the details of her cancer diagnosis and the treatment, the chemotherapy treatment that she is undergoing. We are staying on the story and bringing in Edward Wang. He is a royal commentator and joins us live in Vancouver. So, Edward, just what was your reaction when you heard this news about Kate's health and then the details from her?
Well, indeed, very shocking. As someone who is around the same age group as Her Royal Highness, the Princess of Wales, receiving a cancer diagnosis is obviously very significant. And having this information revealed is a direct response to the insatiable interest in the health of the Princess of Wales over the last 2 months. Now, in January, it was announced that the Princess of Wales will be undergoing abdominal surgery. And since then, there has been conspiracy theories, rumors about where she is, what she is doing, when all she really wanted was to have privacy as she recovered from her surgery. And of course, following that surgery, to receive such devastating news that there was cancer involved, especially when she has 3 young children at home, must have been such a hit to her mental health, her physical being, obviously, as she continues to recover. And to have those rumors and conspiracy theories being spun around the internet and around the world about her for the last 2 years, last 2 months, would have been incredibly difficult. And now to finally reveal this information as a direct result of that insatiable appetite, it hits a lot of people really hard. And I think a lot of people must appreciate now that the focus, we need to pay her and give her the privacy that she needs so she can focus on her 3 young children who must be devastated by this news.
And so she said in the video that they needed to find the time to explain this to the young children, that they're going back to school, that they didn't want all of this to come out. You talked about that insatiable interest and as you say, all of the speculation that took place online. Why do you think that is? What's going on?
Well, the Princess of Wales is a very glamorous person, and despite the fact that she is not the sovereign, she is not the heir to the throne, she's not the reigning consort, she's not in the line of succession, and she's not a counselor of state. She does not have a constitutional role right now in any of the Commonwealth countries, but given her position as mother of the second, third, and fourth in line to the throne, as well as being a very glamorous person who can steer fashion towards any direction right now, I think that's where it came to. We have not had a Diana figure in the royal family since the last Princess of Wales' untimely death in 1997, and it was a long time before this Princess of Wales has filled that void. And so to have suddenly that person be absent again, I think that created a lot of fervor around the world for people. And I think, it really shows where we have come to as a society, where we cannot pay a young woman with young children at home the time and privacy that she needs to recover from significant surgery. It's very sad, and it's deeply upsetting for many of us who support the royal family and the monarchy.
And that's what she said that I think was interesting, was that I mentioned it before, but I think I'll mention it again, is that she was recovering from abdominal surgery. It was not cancerous at the time, but on further tests it was. She had to recover from that abdominal surgery before she underwent, as she says, preventative chemotherapy, with all of this speculation online and in the media. I mean, can you even imagine what that must have felt like?
And some of those conspiracy theories were very, very insulting and traumatic as well. They involved family members as well as friends from, their friend groups. So it must be very upsetting for their cousins to hear about some of these conspiracy theories involving themselves, as well as close friends to be accused most recently of having affairs with members of their inner core family. So, all of this to happen while she's trying to steer herself mentally to prepare for chemotherapy, as well as to look out for her young children, the three young children who are between the ages of 5 and 11. It must be devastating for her. And I think, we have to be very mindful of the difference between her situation and that of His Majesty the King. The King is the head of state of 15 countries around the world and head of the Commonwealth. And therefore, there was a bit more openness about his battle with cancer. The Princess of Wales, despite being a senior member of the royal family, does not hold a constitutional role. And I think we really must now come together as a society and give her the privacy that she needs as she battles this disease. And, cancer at any stage is very scary. And I'm sure parents around the world can now appreciate, the difficulties that the Wales' family are in right now, especially with 3 such young children, which this information will be devastating and traumatic upon them.
Edward, Hillary here. I'm just going to hop in with a couple of questions of my own. As Catherine does battle this illness, as you say, going to be difficult for her with 3 young children, I'm wondering if you can talk to us about the role that the Middleton family might play here in helping out William and Kate and their 3 young children. Of course, by all accounts, Kate is very, very close with her family, with her mom, with her mother, with her father, her sister Pippa, and then her brother James. If you can talk a little bit about the role that they might play, because certainly earlier this month, one of the first photos that emerged was Kate in a vehicle being driven by her mother, Carol. If you can talk to us a bit about the role of the Middletons.
It's been quite unique in that the Middletons, as a maternal family of someone who's married into the family, has been given significant involvement and presence, more so than any other family in the past. If we look at the Spencer family of Diana, Princess of Wales, even though they were members of the aristocracy and members of their family have served as courtiers, they have not been given the same involvement as the Middletons, who have been present at a number of national events, as well as family events, including funerals, memorial services, the coronation as well. So, they will definitely be there to support the Wales' family. Prince William has a very close relationship with his parents-in-law. And that's been reported many times over the years about this special relationship that he looks to Michael Middleton for support when his father, the king, hasn't been able to due to his constitutional duties when the king was Prince of Wales. And so, one of the reasons why the Waleses moved to Windsor, near Windsor Castle at Adelaide Cottage, is to be close to the Middleton family, who live in Berkshire, very close to Windsor Castle. And I think, the Middletons have been a very closely knit family unit of 3 children, and Michael and Carol Middleton. And I think the Middleton family will very much now come together to do everything they can to support the Prince and Princess Wales and the 3 young children.
And what about William in all of this? Of course, there'll be a lot of conversation about Catherine and those 3 young kids, but I have to imagine that for William, that this is pretty devastating as well. His wife, the mother of his 3 children. Of course, we do know that he has stepped back from some of those royal duties in recent weeks. It's still expected that we might start to see more and more of him, particularly after Easter, but this must be quite devastating for him as well.
So some people may recall that a few weeks ago, there was a memorial service at St. George's Chapel for the late King of Greece. And the Prince of Wales, being the godson of the late King Constantine II of the Hellenes, was supposed to give a reading. And the Prince of Wales pulled out at the last minute. Given where we are in timing, I suspect that it was because of this cancer diagnosis that may have caused the Prince of Wales to withdraw from that event. And I remember a lot of people on the internet giving the Prince of Wales a lot of slack over the fact that he withdrew from a memorial service for his godfather. But now that we actually understand the situation, I think people really need to be mindful and think these are actual people. Yes, they have a constitutional role. Yes, they have a role in society. But at the end of the day, they are still people like you and me, with children, with feelings, with emotions, who are battling day-to-day issues. They may be privileged, but now we can see both by the king's cancer diagnosis and the Princess of Wales diagnosis, that privilege do not protect them from from disease and from things that everyday people would also face on a day-to-day basis. And the Prince of Wales is in a very difficult position. He is now heir to the throne. His father, the king, has cancer. He has significant duties to step up to and to carry the shoulder and to carry on his shoulders. We can see that Her Majesty the Queen, that is Queen Camilla, has led the royal family in a number of events as well. But we have to remember she is in her 70s. The Princess Royal is in her 70s. The other working members of the royal family are in their 60s. And so the only person who is under the age of 50 who are still working members of the royal family were the Prince and Princess of Wales. And now the princess, it was announced that she was going to be returned to public duties after Easter, but now that she is undergoing chemotherapy, she will be off for much longer. The Prince of Wales will have to support that family unit, and it's going to be incredibly difficult for him because he is very cognizant of his duties to the United Kingdom, to the other Commonwealth realms, and to the Commonwealth as the Prince of Wales and as heir to the throne, especially when you have a king who is also suffering from cancer at the same time.
And Edward, I just want to ask you, with complete acknowledgement of how difficult this must be for the princess and for the king, there are questions, though, around the prognosis, right, for the king and probably now for the princess. How do we balance the questions that people may have about that? Because you were talking earlier about how the king was maybe a little bit more open about his cancer, but we don't know, and correct me if we're wrong, we don't know much about his prognosis, and we're just learning about this diagnosis for the Princess of Wales.
If we look even 20 years ago, let's look at another very prominent member of the royal family, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, the mother of Queen Elizabeth II. We only found out that she had cancer twice in her lifetime after the publishing of her official biography, I believe around 2010 or 2011, and that she had cancer, I think, in her 60s and in her 80s. And she went around the world at that time, still touring as a very active member of the royal family, and no one knew that. And so for a very senior member of the royal family, especially the head of state, to announce that he has cancer is already a significant opening up of information. You know, we still have to respect that these are deep personal issues, and the king is willing to reveal more about his situation, but only also to a certain extent. I don't think it's worth anyone's time to speculate what type of cancer he has, but he is sending messages throughout his course of treatment. Even today on Instagram, there was photos posted of the king welcoming a new high commissioner to the United Kingdom. And he's doing this to reassure the public that he is still carrying on the mantle of the head of state. He is very much able to carry out the duties of the head of state and of sovereign. And that's very important to maintain political stability. People might think that the monarchy is just a figurehead or a symbolic role, but they still have a very significant role in the constitutional running of many countries around the world. In Canada, for example, although not directly involved in the day-to-day running, people may recall that a few years ago, the Lieutenant Governor of New Brunswick died in office. And in 2004, 2005, the Lieutenant Governor of Alberta died in office. And during those weeks before the federal government can nominate a new Lieutenant Governor, all the processes of government was stopped in those two provinces. Weeks went by without a person to approve, in accordance with the constitutional law, any of those governmental actions. Now, both in Canada at the federal level and in the United Kingdom, there are mechanisms in place to ensure a smooth running of the duties of head of state in case the king is incapable of carrying out those tasks. But just having him present, gives a sense of stability to many people and many political actors around the world. So I think it's very important for the king to continually to be visible. As I mentioned earlier, the Princess of Wales, although she holds a very senior position within the royal family, does not carry any specific constitutional duties. She's not the head of state. She's not the reigning consort. She's not the heir to the throne. She's not in the line of succession, and she's not a counselor of state. While very prominent, she does not have a direct running in how the monarchy works, and nor does she carry out any of the duties for or on behalf of the head of state. And therefore, I think people need to afford her more privacy, and she has very much a right to that privacy. I think it would be different if William was king and she was the reigning consort at that time, if she was queen. I think if this situation was happening when she was queen, Buckingham Palace may be compelled to reveal more information, but we're not at that stage yet. She is once removed from that position. She does not hold an official constitutional role, and I think she should be afforded the privacy that she is seeking.
Edward, appreciate you coming on and talking about what is obviously a difficult time for, as you mentioned, two human beings that are going through cancer right now. Edward, thank you. Royal commentator Edward Wang in Vancouver.
We do have some more reaction that we want to bring you now. First, coming from London Mayor Sadiq Khan. He has put out a statement. It writes, quote, "On behalf of Londoners, I wish the Princess of Wales a swift recovery as she undergoes treatment. My thoughts are with her and her family. Cancer has an impact on so many of us, and her bravery in sharing her diagnosis will help raise awareness and encourage others to get checked." Politicians in this country are also starting to react. I can bring you some reaction now from the leader of the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre. He has put out a statement saying, quote, that he's saddened to hear of the cancer diagnosis of Kate Middleton, Princess of Wales. It goes on to say, quote, "I join with all Canadians in wishing her a speedy recovery." and her family support in a difficult time. So, of course, we will continue to monitor reaction for you both in this country, in the UK, and elsewhere as well. But for now, I would like to bring in Carolyn Harris. She's a royal commentator and historian, and she joins us today from Toronto. Carolyn, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
We'll start here with your reaction. What went through your mind when this news broke?
Well, for weeks, it's been clear that Catherine has been battling quite a serious health issue. Following abdominal surgery, she has not been seen officially in public for a long period of time. So there's been a great deal of speculation concerning the nature of the condition that she's facing. There are many people in the public who look to their own medical histories or those of their family in order to try to figure out what condition Kate was facing. There were a number of unanswered questions, and now it's very clear from Kate herself that she had this abdominal surgery, and then later cancer was discovered, and they had to find the right way to not only tell the public, but also to be able to tell their children as well. So this is both a very personal matter and a public matter as well, as there's been such feverish speculation regarding the health of the Princess of Wales.
And we know from Kensington Palace that part of the reason for the timing of this announcement coming now is today is actually the last day of the spring term at their children's school, the Lambrook School. So, of course, 10-year-old George, 8-year-old Charlotte, and 5-year-old Louis, that they wanted those kids to be on Easter break. They're going to have some time at home. They're not due back in school until April the 17th at this point. How do you think all of this went over? I know it's obviously very speculative, but that must be a very difficult conversation to have with those children. What went through your mind in terms of how this might be impacting those three?
Well, this will be very difficult for Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, as there have been so many health conditions in the royal family. Both George and Louis were present at the funeral of their great-grandmother, their Gan, as they called Queen Elizabeth II, and then their grandfather, King Charles III, has been diagnosed with cancer. And now it's their mum, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, as well. So this is going to be a lot for these young children to take in, and it's understandable that William and Catherine want their family to have as much privacy as possible during this time so that they can have family time together.
These are obviously very, very different situations, what Catherine is now experiencing and of course, what William's own mother experienced. But can you talk to us a little bit about how you think this might be hitting the Prince of Wales, William in particular, of course, thinking here about the fact that he, I'm sure, is thinking about those young kids and what it is like to receive really upsetting news when you were a young child about a parent?
Yes, that for Prince William, this will be bringing back memories of a very difficult time, just as Queen Elizabeth II's funeral in Westminster Abbey must have brought back memories of the funeral of Diana, Princess of Wales. Something else that may seem similar is the media frenzy as well, that both Prince William and his brother Prince Harry are rather distrustful of the British press in different ways. And for Diana, she received constant paparazzi attention, and at the end of her life, the car was being chased by paparazzi in Paris. And so it's understandable that William has been very concerned with Catherine's privacy. They have not been providing regular medical updates. Now, the flip side to that has been that in the age of social media, that has led to an absolute frenzy of speculation online. But this strong focus on privacy and only giving the press and public as much information as they need makes sense when we look at William's history and the amount of press attention that surrounded Diana, and then the media frenzy surrounding Kate's health. That there are certainly some parallels between Diana and the age of the 24-hour news cycle versus Kate and the age of social media.
You talk about that media frenzy. Is this comparable to anything that you can think of that comes to mind in terms of what the royals are facing right now with two very senior royals who have announced just within months of each other that they are both facing these cancer diagnoses? Is there anything comparable here that comes to mind?
Well, when we look historically, there were times when the monarch's health and the health of members of the royal family attracted a great deal of attention. An example would be King George III, where there had to be a regency because of King George III's mental health. And then later in the 19th century, when Queen Victoria withdrew from the public eye because of the death of her husband, Prince Albert, and the constitutional scholar Walter Bagehot wrote in 1867 that his royal family consisted of a retired widow and an unemployed youth. But at the time, Queen Victoria was in seclusion, and it seemed like the heir to the throne had a lot of time to go to the music hall and go to the races, but wasn't particularly representing his mother well in the public sphere. So periods of time where senior members of the royal family don't appear to have a full schedule of royal engagements or out of the public eye, that attracts a lot of concern. Now, the difference is in the 18th and 19th centuries, rumors that spread that tended to be in London elite circles, people who were used to seeing the monarch or used to seeing the heir to the throne. And for the wider world, who only saw members of the royal family on the coinage or in images in newspapers, they didn't expect to have these personal encounters with royalty. But nowadays, where members of the royal family travel the world, they undertake Commonwealth tours, speculation about their whereabouts and their health takes on this global significance that wasn't necessarily the case in past centuries when a smaller number of people would expect to see members of the royal family. Now we see a very vast cross-section of the public around the world who expects to see royalty in the public eye.
Carolyn, I'm going to read a statement here that has just hit the wires from King Charles and Queen Camilla. I'm going to read it and then hopefully I can get you to react to it as well. So it says, quote, "His Majesty is so proud of Catherine for her courage in speaking as she did, following their time in hospital together," because of course you'll remember that they were being treated in that same hospital in London. But following their time in hospital together, His Majesty has remained in the closest contact with his beloved daughter-in-law throughout the past weeks. Both their Majesties will continue to offer their love and support to the whole family through this difficult time. So that is what we are hearing at this point from King Charles and Queen Camilla. Wondering what you make of that statement.
We see a great deal of empathy from King Charles III, who's been undergoing cancer treatment himself, and now his daughter-in-law, Catherine, who's been such a significant member of the family for such a long time, is going through cancer treatment as well. So we see a great deal of empathy and emotion, and that's something we've noticed more generally in King Charles III's reign, that his statements of sympathy, whether it's for family members or for people who've been victims of natural disasters elsewhere in the world, that King Charles III speaks with a great deal of emotion and empathy for people who are going through difficult times. And he can particularly relate to Catherine's situation. And of course, this is a very difficult situation for William as well. It's not the first time that Charles has been ill at the same time as a family member during the COVID-19 pandemic of 2020. Both Charles and William had COVID-19 at the same time. With Charles, the news was announced to the public, but William then, as now, wanted to keep health matters private and later commented he didn't want to worry anyone. But certainly it caused a great deal of concern within the palace for Queen Elizabeth II that the next two heirs to the throne both had COVID at once. And now we're seeing both the King and the Princess of Wales battling cancer at the same time. So it's been quite a difficult few years, particularly this year with these medical diagnoses.
And Carolyn, you brought up Harry and Meghan there a moment ago, Prince Harry and his wife Meghan. A few weeks ago, when the King's cancer diagnosis came out, Prince Harry did fly back home to see his father quite briefly. Obviously, there has been some turmoil, some drama within the royal family in recent years when it comes to the relationship between those two brothers, Prince William and Prince Harry, and their wives as well. How do you think Prince Harry might react to this? How do you think that part of this might play out?
Well, on a personal level, Prince Harry spoke at the time of William and Catherine's wedding that Catherine was the sister he'd never had. They clearly had a very strong rapport at one time, but that changed as time passed when there were tensions between the two couples, William and Catherine, and Harry and Meghan around the time of the birth of Prince Louis and Harry and Meghan's wedding. A lot of this is detailed in Harry's memoirs, how starting with what seemed like fairly inconsequential matters, such as the fit of the bridesmaids' dresses, or whether Easter gifts had been exchanged, that led to there being more significant conflicts. Because William and Catherine are so protective of their privacy, it seems unlikely that they would welcome a visit from Prince Harry at this time, because there might be concerns that he would discuss Catherine's health in future volumes of his memoirs, if he were to write additional books or in additional Netflix documentaries. Harry's willingness to speak quite openly about life within the royal family may well inhibit his ability to rebuild his relationship with William and Catherine. With King Charles III, it's clear that the door is open and that he is open to reconciling with Harry. But I think with William and Catherine, they're going to be very focused on Catherine's health and on their children, and probably won't be looking for a lot of outside visitors and bringing up conversations about past troubles, as might be the case if they meet with Prince Harry.
Carolyn, I want to thank you for all of this today, for your thoughts, your analysis, even some of the history you were bringing us as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Carolyn Harris is a royal commentator and historian, and she joined us today from Toronto.
If you're just joining us, we have major breaking news to tell you about Catherine. The Princess of Wales says she's being treated for cancer. Kensington Palace released a video a short time ago. Kate Middleton broke the news herself, saying it's been a difficult time.
I wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you personally for all the wonderful messages of support and for your understanding whilst I've been recovering from surgery. It has been an incredibly tough couple of months for our entire family, but I've had a fantastic medical team who have taken great care of me, for which I'm so grateful. In January, I underwent major abdominal surgery in London, and at the time, it was thought that my condition was non-cancerous. The surgery was successful. However, tests after the operation found cancer had been present. My medical team therefore advised that I should undergo a course of preventative chemotherapy, and I'm now in the early stages of that treatment. This, of course, came as a huge shock, and William and I have been doing everything we can to process and manage this privately for the sake of our young family. As you can imagine, this has taken time. It has taken me time to recover from major surgery in order to start my treatment, but most importantly, it has taken us time to explain everything to George, Charlotte and Louis in a way that's appropriate for them, and to reassure them that I'm going to be okay. As I've said to them, I am well and getting stronger every day by focusing on the things that will help me heal in my mind, body and spirits. Having William by my side is a great source of comfort and reassurance too, as is the love, support and kindness that has been shown by so many of you. It means so much to us both. We hope that you'll understand that as a family, we now need some time, space and privacy while I complete my treatment. My work has always brought me a deep sense of joy, and I look forward to being back when I'm able. But for now, I must focus on making a full recovery. At this time, I'm also thinking of all those whose lives have been affected by cancer. For everyone facing this disease, in whatever form, please do not lose faith or hope. You are not alone. The Princess of Wales, Catherine, revealing in a video that was
that we aired at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, so 2 hours ago, that she has been diagnosed with cancer and that she is in the early stages of cancer treatment. This, as you remember, as you just heard, in January she underwent some major abdominal surgery, and then upon further tests, it was non-cancerous at the time, upon further tests, in fact, cancer was discovered. I want to bring in Patricia Treble. She is a royal reporter and the author of the Right Royalty newsletter on Substack. And Patricia, I appreciate you taking the time in what is obviously a very difficult time for the Princess of Wales and her family. Tell us, what was your reaction when you heard?
I'm going to confess, I was shocked. I think, like almost everyone, of the news that she has cancer. Everyone had been kind of gearing up for her to come back after Easter. There was hope that she would appear at the Easter services at Windsor, and now, of course, all that's off. And yet, it also made sense of the last few weeks. Yes, there's been the whole hullabaloo about the conspiracy theories and all that, but some things do make sense. So, for instance, William suddenly backing out of the memorial service for King Constantine, which kind of started a whole bunch of speculation, and it was because of her cancer diagnosis. It was to deal with the impact of that, and the fact that they didn't release it earlier. And I can understand that because, of course, they wanted to wait till the kids were out of school. And as we heard in that emotional address, the fact about they have 3 young kids, that is top of mind. And they wanted to wait till they were out of school for the Easter break. They'd break it now for 3 weeks before they made it public to everyone.
So out of school, and just knowing her and her role in that family with her young children, how challenging do you think that was for her to have that conversation with her young children?
Oh, this would have been challenging for any parent.
Yeah.
I've got a very close relative who had to do exactly the same sort of thing. And they actually made the decision to not tell the kids. That they said, Daddy is ill, I'm really ill, but they didn't actually say the C word. But I don't think they had a choice with, with Kate, because of course, we'd be expecting her back to fulfill her duties. And so it must have been enormously wrenching. And look, what she said in there is, she wants privacy. And I think they're really laying down a marker with that. And as they did in January, saying, please respect our privacy, please respect our children's privacy as we deal with this.
And I just want to remind our viewers that, in fact, Buckingham Palace has come out with a statement, where we had the King kind of recognizing the courage that she had in telling everybody about this. What do you make of what he had to say? Of course, undergoing his own cancer treatment.
Exactly. And the King and his daughter-in-law are quite close. I mean, they're kind of famously close. And of course, they were in the same hospital together at the same time, both undergoing treatment. And later, the post-surgery tests revealed they both had cancer. And I can only imagine the emotion he's feeling. I mean, he's undergoing his own cancer treatment. She's now undergoing preventative cancer treatment, which is slightly different. And look, I think for all intents and purposes, they're a busy family. They're not like you or I, but they are close. And you saw it in that message. I mean, it was a really warm, it was a very personal message.
Patricia, you brought up something interesting because I'm trying to understand this. I know you're not a medical doctor, but when you say that he is undergoing his own cancer treatment, she is undergoing, and you're right, she uses the word, she has, that she undergo a course of preventative chemotherapy, and I am now in the early stages of that treatment. What should we make of, what does that mean in your understanding?
To be honest, yes, not obviously complete lay person, but I've got we all know somebody who's had cancer, and then they have to make the decision Sometimes they can excise it completely, and then do you undergo preventative treatment? And I mean, I have a friend who underwent preventative radiation for breast cancer. I would imagine it's something like that. You'd have to talk to an expert about that, but it certainly sounds as though they were able to wait for her to recover enough from the surgery before they had to start this. And I think really what I got out of that message was that, yes, she's got cancer. We shouldn't be that concerned about it. On the level of anxiety, I think we're in the lower end, is what I gathered from that. We'll have to wait and see what more is released from the palace, if anything.
Well, and are these questions appropriate for us to be asking?
Exactly. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I mean, like the king, we don't know what type of cancer it is. We know it isn't prostate cancer, but we don't know what type of cancer. And I think, yes, you come up to this edge of the public's wanting to know versus what they need to know. And I think that statement that Kate read was very clear that if she wants us to know, she will tell us, but otherwise it is her privacy and it is her right to have that privacy. And look, the rules have changed completely in the last few years. Medical privacy is taken incredibly seriously now in a way that it wasn't when the paparazzi and everything was in really strong back in the 90s and the 80s. And so I think there will be a real call for people to respect her privacy.
What can you imagine what the last few months have been like for her, for the Princess of Wales?
No. Yeah, no. I mean, here's the thing. She is somebody who is incredibly strong-willed. People talk about her having, a spine of steel, a lot of self-discipline. This is a woman, though, who had major surgery, who's got very young children. I mean, you just keep throwing things at a young person. And it takes a toll.
42 years old.
You didn't.
42 years old.
Exactly. 42 years old. You didn't see it in that. I thought that address was perfect that she gave. It was exactly what you wanted to say, but at the same time, it's a shock for everyone to find out that somebody a lot of people know of, they follow, that she's going to be out of the public eye for quite a while until she's feeling better.
I just want to read the statement again because I alluded to it, but here it is again from King Charles. This is from Buckingham Palace. His Majesty is so proud of Catherine for her courage in speaking as she did following their time in hospital together. Her Majesty has remained in the closest contact with his beloved daughter-in-law, His Majesty, throughout the past weeks. Both their Majesties will continue to offer their love and support to the whole family through this difficult time. I mean, just the timing of all of this, Patricia, that they're both going through this at the same time.
I know. I mean, it's just, that is the coincidence, right? I mean, that's the sort of thing that just you take a gasp at. But I want to go back to what he said, like, my darling daughter-in-law. I mean, there is a clear affection there. We know that he's spending time, some of his time when he's not in London doing engagements and undergoing treatment. He's spending some of his time in Windsor. Their home is literally a stone's throw away from Windsor Castle. So I imagine they are, being very, very careful with each other. And of course, are spending time with each other because of course they're both going through this. And look, who else, when you get a cancer diagnosis, has to have politicians issue statements, wishing them well, as Kate has had. The Prime Minister of Britain, the Leader of the Opposition, have both issued statements. The fact that everyone has to know this, and especially for somebody who's so private as Kate is, I mean, that must be a bit of a struggle. But that is also what comes with when you're a member of the royal family and when you're a senior member of the royal family.
And what kind of impact do you think this news is going to have on the royal family?
I mean, they've been getting by. Those senior royals, their ranks have been, obviously depleted, 4-2. And now, of course, William will come and go. He's been taking up more and more engagements recently. We'll see if that continues. But what we're really seeing is kind of a reordering as everyone else kind of steps up. So you're seeing more Princess Anne. You're seeing more of the King's brother and sister-in-law, Prince Edward and Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh. And you're seeing them in videos and social media in a way that they weren't done before. They were doing the engagements, but they were just simply doing a lot of them out of the main spotlight. And you're now seeing them step up. And look, royals are like, this royal family is like any other family. You get thrown curveballs and you have to deal with them. And I think this is what is happening. And a lot of the big events are coming up in May and especially in June. And so we'll see what happens. And you adapt and you adapt and you adapt. And any family who's had to deal with illness knows that's what you do. And you take it one day and 1 week at a time.
What does this mean for Canadians and for Canada?
Yeah. Well, look, we've already had we were supposed to have a royal visit by the King and Queen in May. It was widely expected. That is now off. There were talks that William and Kate might also be coming in the near future. They haven't been here since 2016. Of course, the pandemic, threw everyone's schedules off. But I think basically they're going to be sticking close to home. They've already canceled expected visits to Italy and to Latvia. I mean, basically they're going to be focusing on their family. And whether we'll see anyone this year, I think highly unlikely. And remember, we haven't had a monarch visit us since 2010 when the Queen had her last visit. So it's been a long time. But look, health is priority, and that's the priority right now.
Patricia, I want to ask you about the kind of scrutiny that female members of the royal family have had over the years. I'm thinking about Diana, obviously, William's mother, Meghan Markle, and then Catherine, the Princess of Wales, during the last few months. What do you think is going on?
I think women in society always have a difficult time. It's a double standard. I mean, as every woman knows, it's a fact of life. I mean, we resent it. We hate it at times, but it is a fact of life. And you see that with the royal women. They're repeating an outfit, or, they're done this wrong, or, there is a level of scrutiny that has always been faced by all women in society that is simply far more intense than anything that is faced by men. And I think that what we really need to know, to say to everyone is, if you want a true equality, then that level of intensity, that level of scrutiny shouldn't be there. But that's a hard needle to thread. And I think certainly the last few weeks with all these conspiracy theories, with this, when it seemed like everyone was just jumping feet first down rabbit holes.
Why? Why do you think that was going on?
I think there's almost a bit of fun because it's a communal thing. Everyone was talking about it. I was being asked by everyone, people who have no interest even in the monarchy, no interest in the royals, were asking me, well, what about this? What about that? And I think it has to do with our society now. We have this insatiable need to know. It's always been there, but I think social media, the internet, has simply intensified it, and has made it such that not only do we need to know, we want to know, and we believe we deserve to know. And I think that is what has changed, especially in the last little while. Like, look, I was there during the Diana time. I was in the newsroom overlapping for a good whack of that. And it was unbelievably intense there. But I think social media adds a whole different layer on top of that. And it is concerning, especially all the disinformation, the misinformation that has been swirling about her. And I think it's a wake-up call. We are in a whole different world now, and this isn't going to just stop with, Kate and one Mother's Day photo. This is going to be with us for a long time.
Since you brought up the Mother's Day photo, I mean, she's undergoing cancer. This is just terrible. But what do you make about how this has been communicated, or how, you know, you had the photo, and then you had, you know, and then that led to people kind of going down, as you say, other rabbit holes. I mean, what do you make of all of that?
And part of it, I think, is that there was a different communication strategy. So, so you have to remember that royal communications are in two pots, basically. The Prince and Princess of Wales have their own communication shop, Kensington Palace, and everyone else, including the King and the Queen, use Buckingham Palace. And Kensington Palace was very much taking their cues from their principals, in which they wanted privacy. And I think, I don't know that it was the best policy, but at the same time, given everything we now know happening behind the scenes, maybe it was inevitable. She'd been out of the public eye for so long, there were bound to be conspiracy theories. You know, social media abhors a vacuum. But I think the way they handled it wasn't the deftest, I would put it kindly, I think. I think there was a way to probably nip some of this in the bud, but that's water under the bridge. It didn't happen, and you know, and now we're dealing with a whole new situation now.
And Hillary was asking about the impact that this could have on William. I mean, you know, we know the story of his mother when he was a teenager dying in that terrible car crash, and we know that his father just diagnosed and undergoing cancer, and now his wife has cancer. I mean, I can't imagine what that's like.
I think there's going to be an enormous amount of stress on the family, and I think that's why they deliberately released the information now. You know, they knew they were going to have to say something eventually, so they give themselves 3 weeks out of the public eye, because they'll be away for the school break, and gives them time to refocus. But look, William has laid down, I think, a marker. I mean, if you read that message from Kate, it clearly includes touches from William, and it clearly says basically, leave my family alone. Leave them alone. And that is something he has always believed in passionately. He's absorbed those lessons from how his mother was hounded, and he will not allow anything to happen to his family. He's erected very high privacy walls, for better or worse, and there's times when I and everyone else kind of grumble about them, but he has those walls up for a reason.
Do you think people will leave the family alone?
I don't know. I hope so. I think the mainstream media will. The question is, now everyone has a high definition camera on their phone. Will the public leave them alone? Will the paparazzi leave them alone? Here's the one thing they have got going for them, is that they're at Windsor. It's a huge estate. They're in the home park. There's a lot of security around them. They can kind of come and go in a way that they couldn't when they were living at Kensington Palace in London. And I think they're going to take full advantage of that. The rules are much stricter on what the mainstream media can do now. So I think, yes, I think the mainstream media is going to probably play it, right down the line, which is the way they've been doing it since Kate was diagnosed. The question is all the freelance actors, the paparazzi, and anyone with a phone. That we're going to have to wait to see.
And then I wanted to ask you, this sort of came to mind. Do you think there's a difference in how the mainstream media in the UK cover this versus us elsewhere?
So I think in North America, we see the royals more as celebrities, and they're not. And I think this kind of drives home what's happened over the last few months has driven home that distinction. I find it interesting that, TMZ has been driving a lot of the coverage, buying the paparazzi photographs, buying the video that was taken when they were out on last weekend at a shop at Windsor. And
you're right, Patricia, not to interrupt, but to be frank, it was TMZ that had this information that there was going to be a bombshell announcement that was going to be coming out. Yeah. And that's when we didn't go with that information in the head, but we kind of, we got ready because we thought. Yeah.
Like, I was already starting to be told this, I mean, it was coming out that there was going to be information that was going to be released at 2 p.m. And normally when you hear that sort of information, you don't repeat it in the public. there's part of the news industry, right? That you wait for the embargo to drop. That's the issue. Will all these people, there are the rules for the mainstream media, and then there's everyone else. And the question really is how the royals can navigate this new world.
Patricia, appreciate you helping us navigate through this today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew.
Patricia Treble, a royal reporter and the author of the Right Royalty newsletter on Substack.
The CBC's Michelle Gassoub is also following reaction for us, and she joins us now. Okay, Michelle, a lot of reaction, of course, has started to pour in, more yet to come, but tell us a little bit about what has come out so far.
Well, let's start with the latest statement from Buckingham Palace saying His Majesty is so proud of Catherine for her courage in speaking as she did. His Majesty has remained in the closest contact with his daughter-in-law throughout the past weeks. Both their Majesties will continue to offer their love and support to the whole family through this difficult time. Going now to Rishi Sunak, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, with quite a strong statement, of course, offering his thoughts to the Princess of Wales and saying she has shown tremendous bravery with her statement today. In recent weeks, she has been subjected to intense scrutiny and has been unfairly treated by certain sections of the media around the world and on social media. When it comes to matters of health, like everyone else, she must be afforded the privacy to focus on her treatment and be with her loving family. The Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, saying, on behalf of Londoners, I wish the Princess of Wales a swift recovery as she undergoes treatment. My thoughts are with her and her family. Cancer has an impact on so many of us, and her bravery in sharing her diagnosis will help raise awareness and encourage others to get checked. Of course, there are more similar statements from the head of the NHS, the head of the UK Labour Party, from Liz Truss. They continue to pour in from the UK Hillary.
And Michelle, we're also starting to see some Canadian politicians share some of their well wishes as well. Bring us some of those.
Yes, from Pierre Poilievre, head of the opposition, saying, saddened to hear of the cancer diagnosis of Kate Middleton, Princess of Wales. I join with all Canadians in wishing her a speedy recovery and her family support in a difficult time. Of course, also seeing lots of reaction from people who are not heads of state or major public figures. I'll say the tone and tenor of the conversation on social media has certainly changed. This is a story people were kind of having fun with, putting forward their theories of where she might be and what might be going on behind the scenes. That has certainly stopped or slowed down people saying if they had known this information, this diagnosis, they would not have been treating this story with the levity that people have been talking about it with for the past few weeks. There has been some criticism, of course, of saying with the communication strategy, perhaps if there hadn't been the photoshopped Mother's Day photo or some of these other communications that created a void of information and allowed those conspiracy theories to come forward, perhaps the conversation wouldn't have reached the fever pitch that we really saw over recent weeks. But of course, we know that the royals were communicating this very difficult information with their young family. For a long time, there has been the strategy of don't complain, don't explain from the royals, and certainly there is lots of discussion of whether that was the right thing to do at this time, but the majority of the conversation now on social media, certainly people sending their well wishes and expressing their shock that someone so young is now facing this diagnosis.
Michelle, like you say, it certainly took on a life of its own on social media in recent weeks. For now, thank you. We do appreciate the reaction. Michelle Gassoub for us.
We have a breaking news story to share with you now from just outside Moscow. Russia's top security agency says there are at least 40 people dead and more than 100 injured after an attack at a concert venue. As many as 5 gunmen reportedly stormed into the Crocus City Hall and fired machine guns. A series of explosions were also heard, according to witnesses. Russian officials are investigating the shooting and explosions as a terrorist attack. Around 100 people were evacuated from the venue's basement, and people are also trapped on the roof. There are reports that roof is now collapsing. More than 70 ambulances arrived on scene. The mayor of Moscow has canceled all weekend mass gatherings, and we're going to bring you the very latest as this other major breaking news arrives into our newsroom. And we continue to track the other breaking news this hour. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, says she is receiving treatment after being diagnosed with cancer. We'll have the very latest for you here on CBC News Network. Welcome back to CBC News Network and coverage of our breaking news this hour. The Princess of Wales, Kate Middleton, has announced she is undergoing treatment for cancer. She disclosed her condition in a video released this afternoon.
I wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you personally for all the wonderful messages of support and for your understanding whilst I've been recovering from surgery. It has been an incredibly tough couple of months for our entire family, but I've had a fantastic medical team who have taken great care of me, for which I'm so grateful. In January, I underwent major abdominal surgery in London, and at the time, it was thought that my condition was non-cancerous. The surgery was successful. However, tests after the operation found cancer had been present. My medical team therefore advised that I should undergo a course of preventative chemotherapy, and I'm now in the early stages of that treatment.
The princess said she is well and getting stronger every day. She was hospitalized in January for abdominal surgery, but hadn't been seen in public since Christmas until a video surfaced this week of her with Prince William shopping near their home in Windsor. Kate asked for time, space, and privacy while she is treated for the unspecified type of cancer.
Let's bring in the CBC's Dominic Velitis. He joins us now live from London with more. So, Dom, of course, this announcement, it comes after weeks of speculation about the Princess of Wales. I do understand that we're learning a few more details about her health. What are you able to tell us?
Yeah, that's right, Hilary. Just a little bit of extra detail, which has come from Kensington Palace. According to a spokesperson there, the statement reads, the Princess is now on a recovery pathway, having commenced a course of preventative chemotherapy in late February. So the new detail there, Hilary, is that we now know that that course of chemotherapy began in late February. The details of the cancer have not been disclosed, but we did, of course, learn more detail from the princess herself in the statement, in that video statement, which was released earlier today. In it, she explained that when she went in for that abdominal surgery, that planned surgery back in January, there was no indication then of any cancer. However, she went on to explain that tests after that surgery found that cancer had been present, and that doctors then advised she undergo a course of preventative chemotherapy, the early stages of which she is now going through, and which, as I just mentioned, began back in late February. And Catherine went on to say in her statement that she is now thinking of all those who've been affected by cancer, adding she and her husband, Prince William, were now doing everything that they can to process and manage the diagnosis privately for the sake of their three children, Princes George and Louis and Princess Charlotte. And as you would expect, Hilary, she went on to appeal for time, space, and privacy. Hilary.
How did we get here, Dom? Take us through a little bit of the backstory up till this point.
Well, as I say, this all began back in January when Catherine spent the best part of 2 weeks in hospital after planned abdominal surgery. She then returned home to recuperate, and since then has officially been out of the public eye. And her absence from public life fueled wild speculation on social media, especially regarding her health, and attempts, I think, were made by palace officials to manage that rumour and speculation. There was the release of that family photograph to coincide with Mother's Day here in the UK, designed in part, I think, to really reassure people that she was okay, that the rumours were nothing but that, rumours. But of course, the release, which would have been green-lighted by palace officials, backfired spectacularly after the picture was withdrawn from distribution by some of the world's biggest photo agencies over initial claims that it had been photoshopped. And that, of course, sent the rumour mill into absolute overdrive. And you'll remember that Catherine herself had to then release a statement on Commonwealth Day, in fact, in which she admitted she had altered the image and apologised for the confusion that it had caused. But the rumours didn't stop there, didn't stop about her health there. Palace officials, it seemed, had lost control of the narrative. But now we know the truth. Catherine, the Prince of Wales, has confirmed herself today that she has been diagnosed with cancer. and is now in the early stages of treatment. And she, of course, is the second senior royal to receive such a diagnosis this year alone. King Charles as well, of course, was diagnosed with an unspecified form of cancer earlier this year too, Hilary.
Dom, I asked you this about an hour and a half ago when all of this news first broke. I suspect that there's been a lot more reaction so far, but or since then, I should say, but what has the reaction been like where you are in the UK so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think a reaction now is starting to come in. Let's start with King Charles. In a statement from Buckingham Palace, he said His Majesty is so proud of Catherine for her courage in speaking as she did. Following their time in hospital together, His Majesty has remained in the closest contact with his beloved daughter-in-law throughout the past weeks. Both their Majesties will continue to offer their love and support to the whole family through this difficult time. And Hilary, people on the streets of Britain have also now been reacting to the news. Here they are, take a listen.
I can only imagine what her family is going through right now. I hope that they can do everything they can for her and she's able to recover.
I'm absolutely devastated that she's got abdominal cancer because she's a sweetheart. I would like to wish Kate a speedy recovery because she's a mother, and I don't care what the press have done, I don't care that she's royal. The fact is that she's a mother and I want her to get better so she's there for her children.
Reaction there on the streets of Britain to the news that that Catherine, the Princess of Wales, has been diagnosed with cancer. You'll remember a short while ago you heard from the British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. We now have also heard from the leader of the opposition Labour Party, Sir Keir Starmer, and in a statement he said, "Any cancer diagnosis is shocking, but I can only imagine the added stress of receiving that news amid the lurid speculation we've seen in recent weeks." Words echoing really what the British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak had to say earlier this evening. So some early reaction there, Hilary. I'm sure, I have no doubt that there will be more as the evening progresses here.
Something very similar that we heard from London's Mayor Sadiq Khan as well. Dom, thank you for all of this. We do appreciate it. The CBC's Dominic Velitis in London. Well, earlier this afternoon, the White House press secretary reacted to today's announcement from the Princess of Wales. Take a look.
We just heard, obviously all of us just heard the terrible news. Our thoughts are with the Duchess of Cambridge and her family members and friends during this incredibly difficult time. And certainly we wish her a full recovery. And I think it's important that we respect their privacy, especially at this time. So I'm not going to go further than that. I will do one more thing before that, though. I know folks are going to ask if the president has spoken to her or the family. I can just say right now that we don't have anything to share at this time. But obviously, we wish the Duchess of Cambridge a full recovery, and we are incredibly sad to hear of the news.
Now, the princess received a diagnosis that is known to many Canadian families. Dr. Lucy Gilbert is the chair of the Gerald Bronfman Department of Oncology at McGill University, and she joins me now from Montreal. And I just want to ask you, because we're getting a little bit more information. We heard in the video that Catherine, the Princess of Wales, says that she is getting stronger every day by focusing on the things that will help me heal in my mind, body, and spirits. And also from Kensington Palace, a spokesperson says the princess is now on a recovery pathway, having commenced a course of preventative chemotherapy in late February. So listening to that language, what should we make of that?
First of all, I would like to extend my sympathy, my thoughts. I think she's incredibly brave, I think. A cancer diagnosis is devastating at any time. To have it at the age of 42, to be told that when you have young children is, I cannot even put into words how immensely frightening it is. But she handled it so well. So the purpose, I'm glad to speak to you, but just so that we can talk about general things, because one of the most difficult things for people diagnosed with cancer is to manage other people's reactions. So I was impressed that she said that she's concentrating on being mentally fit, physically fit, concentrating on our family, and that is what we advise people who have received a cancer diagnosis to do. And I think she's doing all the right things.
When you hear the language on a recovery pathway, that sounds encouraging.
So it sounds as though, and now here I'm just talking as an oncologist.
Yes.
So she goes in thinking that this is a benign disease. And that's what happens often. You find a mass, a tumor or something, and most of the time, from pre-operative investigation, you have an idea of what it might be. Clearly, she thought this was going to be benign. And what we do, what we as surgeons do is during the time of surgery, we have what is called a frozen section, which means 2 or 3 pieces are taken from what the pathologist thinks is the worst looking part. And if that is reassuring, we think it's going to be all right. But subsequently, 60, 70 pieces are taken, and cancer can be found there. And it appears, that may be what's happened, because it happens to some of our patients too. And then, depending on how dangerous the cells are, what is the nature of that cancer, what we do, what we call calculate the risk of recurrence. And depending on the score we put into it, we advise, the term we can use is preventive chemotherapy. And it looks as though that's what she's going through. And most of the time, because it's preventive chemotherapy, it's a rough period, but then people recover fully, get over the side effects of chemo, and then can get on with their lives.
Okay, so Dr. Gilbert, you're giving us some information based on the language that we're hearing from the princess herself and from Kensington Palace, that the pathway to recovery, preventative chemotherapy, that she is feeling stronger. So you would we're basing this on the statements that we're getting, but you would say the prognosis for the princess is quite good based on this language?
I believe so. I believe based on this language, she had surgery, the surgery was successful. That is a very nice term, which means nothing that looked abnormal was left behind. Then the pathologist finds something cancer, and then depending on the nature of it, you take a decision as to whether you give chemotherapy to be absolutely, to reduce as much as possible the risk of it coming back later. So all this is good news. She has her age in her favor, the fact that she's fit, all of that is in her favor, and she'll get very good care.
How is this diagnosis of the princess different from King Charles's diagnosis?
Very different. Age, people think when they hear the word cancer, they get frightened, they think all cancers are the same. Cancers are very, very different, totally and completely different. The fact that she had abdominal surgery, there are certain kinds of cancer that we kind of think this may be what it comes into play. And the fact the term preventive chemotherapy is a very nice, reassuring sentence. While I think the king is getting chemotherapy treatment. So they're different. Kate has her age in her favor and the fact that she's fit, because chemotherapy does have side effects. Chemotherapy works by killing cells that are multiplying fast. Cancer cells tend to multiply faster. So it kills cancer cells, but it also kills good cells. It affects the bone marrow, the different kinds of 3 kinds of cells that we have in our bone marrow. It can cause anemia, bring down your immunity, bring down your platelets. It can affect the lining of the intestines, affect the kidney. So, but young people cope with all of this. Of course, the type of chemo matters, but young people can, because the reserve is that much more, they can cope better. And a preventive chemotherapy tends to be better and have, that I don't know exactly what combination, but I have some guesses, which it's just speculations, but that is kinder than giving chemotherapy to actually kill and contain actively progressing cancer. So it is different, and I expect her to do that.
What do you make of, when people are undergoing chemotherapy treatment, they're not in the public eye. I mean, imagine, I know that we've been talking about how the princess has a spine of steel, but the scrutiny, the speculation around her over the last months, it must be stressful. It must be stressful for any patient. But what kind of role do you think that kind of stress can play on somebody going through this?
I hope the message that comes out of all of this unfortunate thing, is that people with cancer have enough real problems without having other people add to it. And this is to 1 in 2 Canadians get a cancer, and 1 in 3 to 4 die of cancer. So I think this is the time for us to reflect and think, what can we do for people who are diagnosed with cancer? And because stress is such an important determinant of how one does everything possible to help somebody going through cancer so that you don't add to that stress. So she must feel so worried about her children, her husband. She takes her royal duties seriously. So one has to back off from, we can use this to make sure that people are careful to have their screening tests done, that they take symptoms seriously, they seek care, that if they have a cancer diagnosis, they follow all the instructions. But I would say leave a person who's already going through tremendous pain and suffering because of the nature of what's happening, to just leave her, let her be, to get on with her family.
Let her be. Some pretty good advice there, Dr. Gilbert. Appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Dr. Lucy Gilbert of McGill University in Montreal. look at Moscow, where there is breaking news this hour. At least 40 people have been killed and more than 100 injured after gunmen dressed in camouflage opened fire with automatic weapons at people at a concert hall near the city. It's one of the worst such attacks on Russia in years. We'll have more on this story coming up on CBC News Network.
Hello, I'm Hilary Johnstone in Ottawa.
And I'm Andrew Nichols in Toronto.
This is CBC News Network. We continue to follow big breaking news out of the UK. All of this, of course, involving Catherine, the Princess of Wales. She has announced that she's being treated for cancer. Kensington Palace released a video just a short time ago. Catherine broke the news herself, saying it's been a difficult time.
I wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you personally for all the wonderful messages of support and for your understanding whilst I've been recovering from surgery. It has been an incredibly tough couple of months for our entire family, but I've had a fantastic medical team who have taken great care of me, for which I'm so grateful. In January, I underwent major abdominal surgery in London, and at the time, it was thought that my condition was non-cancerous. The surgery was successful, However, tests after the operation found cancer had been present. My medical team therefore advised that I should undergo a course of preventative chemotherapy, and I'm now in the early stages of that treatment. This, of course, came as a huge shock, and William and I have been doing everything we can to process and manage this privately for the sake of our young family. As you can imagine, this has taken time. It has taken me time to recover from major surgery in order to start my treatment. But most importantly, it has taken us time to explain everything to George, Charlotte, and Louis in a way that's appropriate for them and to reassure them that I'm going to be okay. As I've said to them, I am well and getting stronger every day by focusing on the things that will help me heal in my mind, body, and spirits. Having William by my side is a great source of comfort and reassurance too, as is the love, support, and kindness that has been shown by so many of you. It means so much to us both. We hope that you'll understand that as a family, we now need some time, space, and privacy while I complete my treatment. My work has always brought me a deep sense of joy, and I look forward to being back when I'm able. But for now, I must focus on making a full recovery. At this time, I'm also thinking of all those whose lives have been affected by cancer. For everyone facing this disease, in whatever form, please do not lose faith or hope. You are not alone.
Let's bring in the CBC's Dominic Velitis. He joins us now live from London with more details. Dom, this announcement, of course, it comes after weeks and weeks of speculation about the Princess of Wales. What more are we learning about her health?
Well, Hilary, a short while ago, we received a short statement from Kensington Palace, which gives us a little more detail regarding the Princess's diagnosis and treatment. It reads, the Princess is now on a recovery pathway, having commenced a course of preventative chemotherapy in late February. So we now know, Hilary, that Catherine's chemo began in late February. Details of the cancer, however, have not been disclosed, but we did learn more detail, didn't we, from the Princess's statement. In it, she explained that when she went for that abdominal surgery, planned surgery back in January, there was no indication of any cancer. However, tests following that surgery found that cancer had been present, and that doctors then advised she undergo a course of chemotherapy, of preventative chemotherapy, the early stages of which she is now going through. And Catherine went on to say that she is now thinking of all those who've been affected by cancer, adding she and her husband, Prince William, were now doing everything that they can to process and manage the diagnosis privately for the sake of their three children, Princes George and Louis and Princess Charlotte. And as you would expect, Hilary, and as you heard, she went on to appeal for time, space, and privacy. Hilary.
And she also said in that video, Dom, of course, that the way she explained this to her children was that she is well. And certainly that statement you were just mentioning from Kensington Palace saying that she's now on a recovery pathway. So some important language to bring into all of this. But do remind us, how did we get to this point?
Well, as I say, this all began back in January. Catherine spent the best part of 2 weeks in hospital following that abdominal surgery before then returning home to recuperate. And since then, officially, she's been completely out of the public eye, and her absence from public life fueled wild speculation on social media regarding her health. And attempts, I think, were made by palace officials to manage that rumour and speculation. There was the release of that family photograph to coincide with Mother's Day here in the UK, designed in part, I think, to really reassure people that she was okay, that the rumours were nothing but that, just rumours. But of course, that release, which would have been green-lighted by palace officials, backfired spectacularly after the picture was withdrawn from distribution by some of the world's biggest photo agencies over initial claims that it had been photoshopped. That sent the rumour mill into absolute overdrive. And you'll remember, Hilary, that Catherine herself then had to release a statement in which she admitted that she had altered the image and apologised for the confusion that it had caused. But that didn't stop the rumours either about her health. Palace officials, it seemed, had lost complete control of the narrative. But now we know the truth. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, has confirmed today that she has been diagnosed with cancer and is now in the early stages of treatment. And of course, she is, Hilary, the second senior royal to receive such a diagnosis this year. King Charles as well was diagnosed with an unspecified form of cancer earlier this year too. So a tough time at the moment for the royal family. Hilary.
And Dom, this news was shared with the public at 6 p.m. local time in London. So just in time for those evening newscasts is just one example here. But bring us some of the reactions, some of what you have heard and seen so far.
Yeah, it was a very carefully orchestrated release. But you're right, reaction now starting to come in. But let's start with King Charles. And in a statement from Buckingham Palace, he said His Majesty is so proud of Catherine for her courage in speaking as she did. Following their time in hospital together, His Majesty has remained in the closest contact with his beloved daughter-in-law throughout the past weeks. Both their Majesties will continue to offer their love and support to the whole family through this difficult time. And I should add as well, Hilary, that people on the streets of Britain are now also reacting to the news. Here's what some of them had to say. Take a listen.
I can only imagine what her family is going through right now. I hope that they can do everything they can for her and she's able to recover.
I'm absolutely devastated that she's got abdominal cancer because she's a sweetheart. I would like to wish Kate a speedy recovery because she's a mother, and I don't care what the press have done, I don't care that she's royal. The fact is that she's a mother and I want her to get better so she's there for her children.
So some early reaction there, Hilary, from people on the streets of Britain. We've also now been hearing from senior politicians here in the UK. We've had a statement from the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, in which he said, "My thoughts are with the Princess of Wales, Prince of Wales, the royal family, and in particular, her 3 children at this difficult time. The Princess of Wales," he goes on to say, "has the love and support of the whole country as she continues her recovery." And he adds, "She has shown tremendous bravery with her statement today. In recent weeks, she has been subjected to intense scrutiny and has been unfairly treated by certain sections of the media around the world and on social media." And he goes on to say, Hilary, "When it comes to matters of health, like everyone else, she must be afforded the privacy to focus on her treatment and be with her loving family." And he finishes off by saying, "I know I speak for the whole country in wishing her a full and speedy recovery and looking forward to seeing her back in action when she is ready." We've also heard, Hilary, from Sir Keir Starmer. He's the leader of the Labour opposition party. And in a statement, he said, "Any cancer diagnosis is shocking, but I can only imagine the added stress of receiving that news and the lurid speculation we've seen in recent weeks." So words there echoing what the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak had to say. Some early reaction there, Hilary. I have no doubt that there will be more as the evening progresses.
And there certainly has been a lot of speculation. Okay, Dom, for now, thank you for all of this. The CBC's Dominic Velitis for us in London.
Thank you.
And Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is offering his regards. In a statement released moments ago, he says, "My thoughts are with the Princess of Wales, her children, and the entire royal family following the news of her cancer so courageously shared. On behalf of Canadians, I'm sending my support as she undergoes treatment. We're all wishing her a swift recovery." Much more to discuss here. So for that, we connect with author and journalist Janelle Aldred in London. Janelle, good to have you with us again. Appreciate you taking the time. What was your reaction to this news today?
I think the past few weeks there has been a lot of speculation about what was going on. And so to hear this is what it was, I think most people will be quite shocked because once conspiracy theories or rumour mills go into overdrive, everything gets drawn into the equation. So to actually know, and, you know, a couple of weeks ago or about a week ago, we thought we were going to hear an announcement from the palace. They said the BBC was prepped and then nothing came down last weekend, but it has come down now.
And how do you think, I mean, this is, of course, she's a human being going through a difficult cancer diagnosis and treatment. Chemotherapy is really tough on people, as anyone who's had family knows that, or who's gone through it themselves. But it's also about public relations. How do you think she was served by the Kensington Palace PR team?
I don't think she was served very well in a sense, because it's, you hear those statements from the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition saying about lurid details and people questioning things, but people are going to question. She's the future queen of this country. And so, of course, people are curious about her life in many ways, many guises, and the sudden kind of disappearance and leaving public life. And then a few, what I would call PR missteps that happened along the way, the Mother's Day photo. I think these were things that didn't need to happen. And I think it's very interesting the different ways that Buckingham Palace dealt with King Charles's cancer diagnosis in comparison to this. And they kind of came out very upfront, this is what it is. And so what you see is there's no gap, there's no space there for things to creep in about what could it be. We don't know in both cases what the kind of cancer is. Both of them found the diagnosis after having surgery, but just dealt with it in very, very different ways. I understand, as a person, it's a hard diagnosis. I know people who've been on that journey, and it's devastating. It takes you time to come to terms with it. There's a sense of wanting to be very private until you're ready to talk about it. The difference here is you're in a very, very public state role. So it's not just that you're an actor or an actress, you're part of the setup and the mechanics of how this country runs. And so people are very curious. And so it's a very different thing from them being on the front pages all the time and us finding out where they are, what they're doing, what they're opening, to this wall of silence. And so I don't think she was served all that well, because I think we can directly compare it to how Buckingham Palace dealt with it and see how that had a different kind of outcome, a different kind of noise around the news.
So, Janelle, I want to ask you about that, because, there is a difference of opinion that has been out there over the course of the interviews that I've done this afternoon on whether or not she is not the sovereign. She is not, and she is not in the line of succession. But as you say, she will be a future queen. So how appropriate is it for all of us to be asking these questions about her health?
On one hand, it's inappropriate because it's a personal thing. On the other hand, she is part of the mechanics of this family, and there are 4 senior royals now. They slimmed down monarchy. The whole point of that was to have fewer people on show. Taxpayers do pay towards, the palaces, all of these things. It is complicated and it's complex. And I think there's no easy answer, because one answer sounds quite inhumane. They're kind of workers and we're entitled to know. The other side says, we're not entitled to know, but we do, on the other hand, contribute, taxpayers do, to all that goes on around the monarchy. They're part of the state, heads of state. She's married to the future head of the state. Her son will be King of England one day. And so in that sense, it's not just about the public are interested. There's a public interest in understanding how the monarchy is functioning, who is, kind of on duty and all of those things. And I think with King Charles, it was very upfront and we understood what was happening. So as I said, there's no vacuum. There was a vacuum of information and people filled that vacuum of information. And I don't know if actually what filled the vacuum wasn't worse than if people had have known the diagnosis. I think actually she probably would have had maybe a bit more privacy and time to deal with it had that vacuum of information been filled. Of course, you go back in time, you do things differently, maybe, but, and it's easy to say with hindsight, but I think with hindsight, you can see things got a bit out of control.
Tell me a little bit more about why do you think there is this sort of this push and pull, this desire to keep things private for so long, and then all of a sudden this vacuum happens? Why not be more public and more transparent, given the public roles that they have?
I guess it is that thing of a person dealing with something really, really challenging. And I think, many of us can relate to when you've had some bad news or some big news or some life-altering news. And sometimes it's hard to tell the people that you love, or it's hard to have it out there. You don't want people, it's a weird mix of you want people to know so you can get on with it, but also you don't want the pity or the sympathy, or you just want to come to terms with it yourself. And in the very most human sense, I understand all of those things. The problem sometimes when we don't share things is the longer you don't share it is the harder it becomes to share, and the bigger it becomes both in your mind and in the mind of others. And I think that's a bit of what's happened here. It's just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until it's almost out of control. And I think things like the Mother's Day photo, they didn't have to release one. They kind of said you're not going to see her until after Easter. And I think if they'd held that line, maybe things wouldn't have spiraled the way they did. But then you get this drip feed of, you see her in a car with him, you see a Mother's Day photo, and then that opens up the conversation yet again to, where is she? What's going on? She obviously is around, but not around. What's happening? And so I think in that sense, I can understand the reticence to share this news. Very personal, very deep, very complex, big news, life-altering news. On the other hand, you are a public figure. There will be interest. People are going to print stories. The press, it's their job, it's the media's job to talk about people that are in the public interest and in the public eye. You can't really blame them for doing that. The tone that it took was just because of a vacuum of information.
And Janelle, I mean, she said in that video, she said that it took her time to recover from the major surgery in order to start the treatment. But most importantly, it has taken us time to explain everything to George, Charlotte, and Louis in a way that is appropriate for them and to reassure them that I am going to be okay. I mean, there's also that factor, right? She's got young children.
And that is an important piece of the puzzle. And, in a sense, either way you go, if you've gone this way where they're probably hearing people saying all kinds of things, even though they might know that's not true, it puts that doubt in children's mind anyway, because they're probably hearing things from other people in a kind of a drip feed way, or maybe just curiosity about where their mummy is. And so, in one sense, it's tricky. There are no easy answers, I think, with this. And we can say there's a right way. I don't think there's a right way to do it, because it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. You fill the vacuum with the real truth, and that gives one sense of the walls closing in. You don't put things, you leave that vacuum, people fill it with their own stuff. That brings the walls in another sense. But I guess as any parent, and I don't, I'm child-free myself, but for parents, they want to make that decision about how their children consume this information, and they know when they're ready to hear more. So I think it has been a very, very difficult situation, and maybe handled slightly differently. I think the public perception and all that's kind of transpired maybe would have been handled very differently.
Janelle, what have you been hearing from people in London about this news?
I mean, I must admit, I was out when the news kind of broke. One of my friends messaged me, we finally know, because as a journalist, I have lots of friends who are journalists, so we've all been following this with curiosity. And so it was kind of like, okay, well, that's what it is, because we were all expecting, as I mentioned earlier, last weekend, to kind of get that news coming down as to what was actually happening. So I think everyone is just, now we know. I think we will have endless days of coverage of this. That's just kind of the way this goes. But I think in a sense, it settles down a lot of the other stuff, which is it this? Is it this? Is it that? Is it the other? So I think in a sense, people are like, okay, that's it. And I think actually there'll be a lot of sympathy for her, because you'd be quite a mean-spirited person to not wish her a speedy recovery and to get well soon, and to hope that everything ends in the best way possible. But I think now that everybody knows, it will take a lot of the heat out of this story.
And then just briefly, Janelle, that there's also, of course, the king that is going through his own treatment. I mean, can you just talk a little bit about kind of the impact that this would be having on the royal family?
Yeah, the slimmed down royal family that was meant to, cost taxpayers a bit less and be more efficient and be more modern. And now 2 of those people are now, sadly unwell and receiving treatment for cancer. And, they're not biologically, related. It's his daughter-in-law. But this does, then you say, okay, well, now we have this slimmed down monarchy. Now there's fewer people out on engagements. And, people were saying all sorts of things about William and his behaviour. Now it transpires, both his father and his wife have both been diagnosed with cancer in short succession. That can't be easy, to go out and be doing the work and knowing that all of this is kind of going on at home. So I do think it does present a few questions about what does this shape look like, what will happen over the next couple of months, over the summer. But time will only tell what they do. You know, there are other royals around that, you know, they just haven't been part of the working royal setup. So we will see probably some of those people come to the fore. It does raise the question of Prince Andrew and all of those things. So we'll have to see how it all pans out. But it's really unfortunate both for them and what they're going through, but also at a time when the royal family, you know, want to modernise and want to show they're here for the future. This is a challenging moment.
Janelle, appreciate you coming on and talking to us very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Author and journalist Janelle Aldred in London.
Earlier this afternoon, the White House press secretary reacted to today's announcement from the Princess of Wales. Take a look.
We just heard, obviously all of us just heard the terrible news. Our thoughts are with the Duchess of Cambridge and her family members and friends during this incredibly difficult time. And certainly we wish her a full recovery. And I think it's important that we respect their privacy, especially at this time. So I'm not going to go further than that. I will do one more thing before that, though. I know folks are going to ask if the president has spoken to her or the family. I can just say right now that we don't have anything to share at this time. But obviously we wish the Duchess of Cambridge a full recovery, and we are incredibly sad to hear of the news.
We are also watching breaking news out of Russia. Security officials say gunmen have attacked a concert venue on the outskirts of Moscow, killing at least 40 people and injuring more than 100 others. In these new images, you can clearly see flames pouring from the roof of the Crocus City Hall. Witnesses say as many as 5 gunmen stormed the venue, firing automatic weapons. They also describe a series of explosions. Reports say the roof has begun collapsing, even as people try to escape the building. Firefighters are trying to douse the flames. More than 70 ambulances are on the scene. The mayor of Moscow has canceled all weekend mass gatherings. We will bring you further developments throughout the hour right here on CBC News Network.
incredibly sad. Whenever anybody gets cancer, it's a horrible thing to hear, and I can only imagine what her family is going through right now. I hope that they can do everything they can for her and she's able to recover.
I would like to wish Kate a speedy recovery because she's a mother, and I don't care what the press have done, I don't care that she's royal. The fact is that she's a mother, and I want her to get better so she's there for her children.
That was some reaction from the streets of London to the breaking news today about the Princess of Wales, Catherine Middleton. She announced earlier that she is undergoing treatment for cancer. She disclosed her condition in a video released to the public.
I wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you personally for all the wonderful messages of support and for your understanding whilst I've been recovering from surgery. It has been an incredibly tough couple of months for our entire family, but I've had a fantastic medical team who have taken great care of me, for which I'm so grateful. In January, I underwent major abdominal surgery in London, and at the time, it was thought that my condition was non-cancerous. The surgery was successful. However, tests after the operation found cancer had been present. My medical team therefore advised that I should undergo a course of preventative chemotherapy, and I'm now in the early stages of that treatment.
The princess said she is well and getting stronger every day. She was hospitalized in January for abdominal surgery, but hadn't been seen in public since Christmas until a video surfaced this week of her with Prince William shopping near their home in Windsor. Catherine asked for time, space, and privacy while she is treated for the unspecified type of cancer.
The CBC's Michelle Gassoub is following all of this for us, and she joins us once again. Michelle, reaction, of course, it has just been pouring in, so tell us a little bit about what you're seeing out there.
Let's go to a statement from Justin Trudeau, just posted. He said, "My thoughts are with the Princess of Wales, her children, and the entire royal family following the news of her cancer so courageously shared. On behalf of Canadians, I'm sending my support as she undergoes treatment. We're all wishing her a swift recovery." This comes just shortly after a similar statement from Pierre Poilievre saying, "Saddened to hear of the cancer diagnosis of Kate Middleton, Princess of Wales. I join with all Canadians in wishing her a speedy recovery and her family support in a difficult time." Buckingham Palace saying His Majesty is so proud of Catherine for her courage in speaking as she did. Her Majesty has remained in the closest contact with his daughter-in-law throughout the past weeks. Both their Majesties will continue to offer their love and support to the whole family during this difficult time. This, of course, coming as the King undergoes his own treatment for cancer. These two announcements, quite shocking to many people, coming very, very close together.
Michelle, there's a little bit of more family reaction here as well that's just coming out on Instagram. This coming from Catherine, the Princess of Wales, from her brother James, who's posted a childhood photo of the two of them with the caption saying that, "Over the years, we have climbed many mountains together, and as a family, we will climb this one with you too." That just being posted from the princess's brother a short time ago. But Michelle, of course, there's also some strong words coming from the UK's Prime Minister about all of this. So tell us a little bit about that reaction.
Yeah, so Rishi Sunak's statement kind of stands out because he, of course, sends his well wishes, but also goes on to say she has shown tremendous bravery with her statement today. In recent weeks, she has been subjected to intense scrutiny and has been unfairly treated by certain sections of the media around the world and on social media. When it comes to matters of health, like everyone else, she must be afforded the privacy to focus on her treatment and be with her loving family. So he's kind of taking, directly speaking to some of the commentary that we saw on social media, but also from official media organizations, kind of the conspiracy theories, people putting forward their theories of where she might be, whether she might have suffered a health setback, what might be going on with the royal family behind the scenes. So he really called that out quite directly in his statement, which is interesting, has kind of a different tone than some of the other statements that we've seen. In terms of the overall reaction on social media, that conspiracy theory sort of jokey tone has definitely faded away as people take in this news. People saying perhaps if they'd known that she was facing this kind of serious diagnosis, they wouldn't have been treating the story with kind of the levity and the humor that we've seen in recent weeks, whether it be memes or on TikTok, on Twitter, articles written with people speculating. So certainly a shift in tone. Also seeing reaction from many people who have had cancer, who have family members who have cancer, saying that they found it tremendously brave of her to come out and address this so directly, and they hope that having such a public figure, someone who has been in the public eye for so many years, coming out and addressing this so directly, that more people will get tested and it will become perhaps easier to have these conversations about cancer out in the open. So the reaction continues to pour in. We will continue to monitor that throughout this afternoon.
Okay, we appreciate all of this. Michelle Gassoub for us.
We want to take you now to Winnipeg, where the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs are speaking about meetings they had with municipal, provincial, and federal governments regarding the search for missing Indigenous women at a Manitoba landfill.
Okay, I just want to thank you all for coming and for coming to listen to what we have to say in terms of our very historic meeting that we had today. And it was historic because of the fact that we had the federal minister as well as the deputy minister from Ottawa who was present, the premier of the province of Manitoba, and as well as the mayor of Winnipeg. And this was a request that we made on behalf of the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs, and on behalf of the families, the Myron and families that came today. We asked for this meeting specifically to ensure that the families didn't become political yo-yos amongst governments, because governments tend to do that. They will make decisions and then they will send you off to the next level of government to get the answers that you seek. As you're very much aware that this work has been done over the last 15 months, and the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs, along with the families, have done a lot of work, have ensured that we lobbied the governments and that we produced 2 documents. And even that is historic, that we were asked to produce a document to search the landfill for our loved ones. There has been other searches of landfills for other people. They were never asked to produce a feasibility study to see how worthwhile or how costly it would be to search the landfills. But we were asked to do that, and we did. The first initial amount that was given to do the first feasibility study was $500,000, which came from the federal government. The second document, the operational plan, which we completed in January and was given out to the province, cost $740,000. So a lot of money has been spent to convince governments to do the right thing. And today, in meeting with the federal government and the provincial government, there was a commitment from them to search the landfills. The province of Manitoba committed $20 million. The federal government committed $20 million. The province also committed $500,000 for the families while they are going to be going through the trial process. And the federal government committed $200,000 for the mental well-being of the families while they are going to be going through this process, this heartbreaking process. So today's a very bittersweet day. It's a sense of relief, but yet work needs to be done. And it's timing. The work that needs to be done is timing. So I'd like to thank the families, the Mercedes Myron and Morgan Harris families, but not to forget Buffalo woman, that we never ever did find out who she was, that we never ever did find out who her family was or where she came from, as well as Rebecca Contois, and the other countless First Nation women that are missing in this province and that are missing in this country. We pray that they will find their way home somehow, somewhere. So I'm going to hand it over to Cambria to speak. So.
Which Grand Chief? First off, I would like to thank the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs for always being there for every step of the way from the very beginning of the homicide announcement on December 1st, 2022. Today and every day moving forward will be very, very tough. But we did get a commitment today of $20 million from the provincial government and from the federal government. So that's a total of $40 million to search the landfill. Wab Kinew in his ears, that threw me for a loop. Okay. Wab Kinew in his words said that we are going to search every cubic meter of cell 13 where my mother, Morgan, and Mercedes are laying. They have also committed funding, $500,000 as well as $200,000 for mental health supports to help the families during the hard time of the trial to come up ahead, where the families will be sitting in the room with the serial killer, listening to what happened to our loved ones over the course of 2 months. I would like to say that I am very grateful for these commitments going forward, and I hope that we can continue to provide transparency to members of the public, community members, as well as the families. And I pray that one day we will see justice. Thank you. If anyone has questions.
That was Cambria Harris, the daughter of Morgan Harris, one of two murdered Indigenous women that are believed to be in a landfill outside, remains believed to be in a landfill outside of Winnipeg, saying, of course, that this will be very tough. But we heard from the Grand Chief, Kathy Merrick of the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs, confirming that the federal government and the provincial government are committing $20 million each for this search, as well as $500,000 for the families, and $200,000 that's from the province, and $200,000 from the federal government for mental well-being.
This is a look at Moscow for you, where there is breaking news this hour. At least 40 people have been killed and more than 100 injured after gunmen dressed in camouflage opened fire with automatic weapons at people at a concert hall near the city. It is one of the worst such attacks on Russia in years. We, of course, are watching for any further developments, and we'll keep you informed right here on CBC News Network. Welcome back to CBC News Network and coverage of breaking news this hour. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, says she's being treated for cancer. Kensington Palace released a video just a short time ago. Catherine broke the news herself, saying it's been a difficult time.
I wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you personally for all the wonderful messages of support and for your understanding whilst I've been recovering from surgery. It has been an incredibly tough couple of months for our entire family, but I've had a fantastic medical team who have taken great care of me, for which I'm so grateful. In January, I underwent major abdominal surgery in London, and at the time, it was thought that my condition was non-cancerous. The surgery was successful. However, tests after the operation found cancer had been present. My medical team therefore advised that I should undergo a course of preventative chemotherapy, and I'm now in the early stages of that treatment. This, of course, came as a huge shock, and William and I have been doing everything we can to process and manage this privately for the sake of our young family. As you can imagine, this has taken time. It has taken me time to recover from major surgery in order to start my treatment. But most importantly, it has taken us time to explain everything to George, Charlotte, and Louis in a way that's appropriate for them and to reassure them that I'm going to be okay. As I've said to them, I am well and getting stronger every day by focusing on the things that will help me heal in my mind, body, and spirits. Having William by my side is a great source of comfort and reassurance too, as is the love, support, and kindness that has been shown by so many of you. It means so much to us both. We hope that you'll understand that as a family, we now need some time, space, and privacy while I complete my treatment. My work has always brought me a deep sense of joy, and I look forward to being back when I'm able. But for now, I must focus on making a full recovery. At this time, I'm also thinking of all those whose lives have been affected by cancer. For everyone facing this disease, in whatever form, please do not lose faith or hope. You are not alone.
The Princess received a diagnosis that is known to many Canadian families. Dr. Lucy Gilbert is the chair of the Gerald Bronfman Department of Oncology at McGill University. She spoke to Andrew earlier from Montreal.
To have it at the age of 42, to be told that when you have young children is, I cannot even put into words how immensely frightening it is, but she handled it so well. So the purpose, I'm glad to speak to you, but just so that we can talk about general things, because one of the most difficult things for people diagnosed with cancer is to manage other people's reactions. So I was impressed that she said that she's concentrating on being mentally fit, physically fit, concentrating on our family, and that is what we advise people who have received a cancer diagnosis to do. And I think she's doing all the right things.
When you hear the language on a recovery pathway, that sounds encouraging.
So it sounds as though, and now here I'm just talking as an oncologist.
Yes.
So she goes in thinking that this is a benign disease. And that's what happens often. You find a mass, a tumor or something, and most of the time, from pre-operative investigation, you have an idea of what it might be. Clearly, she thought this was going to be benign. And what we do, what we as surgeons do is during the time of surgery, we have what is called a frozen section, which means 2 or 3 pieces are taken from what the pathologist thinks is the worst looking part. And if that is reassuring, we think it's going to be all right. But subsequently, 60, 70 pieces are taken, and cancer can be found there. And it appears, that's maybe what's happened, because it happens to some of our patients too. And then depending on how dangerous the cells are, what is the nature of that cancer, what we do, what we call calculate the risk of recurrence. And depending on the score we put into it, we advise the term we can use is preventive chemotherapy. And it looks as though that's what she's going through. And most of the time, it's because it's preventive chemotherapy, it's a rough period, but then people recover fully, get over the side effects of chemo, and then can get on with their lives.
Okay, so Dr. Gilbert, you're giving us some information based on the language that we're hearing from the princess herself and from Kensington Palace, that the pathway to recovery, preventative chemotherapy, that she is feeling stronger. So you would we're basing this on the statements that we're getting, but you would say the prognosis for the princess is quite good based on this language?
I believe so. I believe based on this language, she had surgery, the surgery was successful. That is a very nice term, which means nothing that looked abnormal was left behind. Then the pathologist finds something cancer, and then depending on the nature of it, you take a decision as to whether you give chemotherapy to be absolutely to reduce as much as possible the risk of it coming back later. So all this is good news. She has her age in her favor, the fact that she's fit, all of that is in her favor, and she'll get very good care.
Dr. Lucy Gilbert is the chair of the Gerald Bronfman Department of Oncology at McGill University.
A look at Moscow, where at least 40 people have been killed and more than 100 injured after gunmen opened fire at a concert hall near the city. Russia's state-owned RIA news agency says children are among those injured. A Ukrainian presidential advisor has said that Kyiv had nothing to do with the attack. It is one of the worst such attacks on Russia in years. We're watching for further developments, and we'll keep you informed on CBC News Network. The latest now on the breaking news from Moscow, an attack this evening on a concert hall on the outskirts of the city. Security officials say at least 40 people have been killed and more than 100 injured. Flames are pouring from the upper level and roof of the Crocus City Hall. Witnesses say as many as 5 people wearing fatigues stormed the venue. Reports say at least part of the roof has begun collapsing as people try to escape the building. Firefighters are trying to douse the flames. More than 70 ambulances are on the scene, and the mayor of Moscow has canceled all weekend mass gatherings. Canada's ambassador to Russia, Sarah Taylor, has issued a message on social media. She says on March 22, 2024, today, a terrorist attack occurred at Crocus City Hall, a concert venue in Krasnogorsk, just outside central Moscow. There are reports of gunfire and explosions. The incident resulted in multiple casualties, and fires continue to burn around the site of the attack. Local authorities have cordoned off the affected area and have canceled upcoming mass gatherings in Moscow. Further attacks could occur at any time. If you are in Moscow, avoid the affected area. Follow the instructions of local authorities. Exercise extreme caution in public and avoid large gatherings. Contact the Embassy of Canada to Russia in Moscow if you require consular emergency assistance.
And now to our other breaking news that we've been tracking for you this afternoon. The Princess of Wales, Catherine Middleton, has announced she's undergoing treatment for cancer. She disclosed her condition in a video released earlier this afternoon.
I wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you personally for all the wonderful messages of support and for your understanding whilst I've been recovering from surgery. It has been an incredibly tough couple of months for our entire family, but I've had a fantastic medical team who have taken great care of me, for which I'm so grateful. In January, I underwent major abdominal surgery in London, and at the time, it was thought that my condition was non-cancerous. The surgery was successful. However, tests after the operation found cancer had been present. My medical team therefore advised that I should undergo a course of preventative chemotherapy, and I'm now in the early stages of that treatment.
The princess said she is well and getting stronger every day. She was hospitalized in January for abdominal surgery, but hasn't been seen in public since Christmas, until a video surfaced this week of her with Prince William shopping near their home in Windsor. Catherine asked for time, space, and privacy while she is treated for the unspecified type of cancer. Buckingham Palace has released this statement about the Princess of Wales. It says, quote, "His Majesty is so proud of Catherine for her courage in speaking as she did. Following their time in hospital together, His Majesty has remained in the closest contact with his beloved daughter-in-law throughout the past weeks. Both their Majesties will continue to offer their love and support to the whole family through this difficult time." And Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is offering his regards. In a statement released this hour, he says, "My thoughts are with the Princess of Wales, her children, and the entire royal family following the news of her cancer so courageously shared. On behalf of Canadians, I'm sending my support as she undergoes treatment. We're all wishing her a swift recovery." We've also been hearing reaction from people on the streets of London. Take a listen to some of what they've been saying.
It's incredibly sad. Whenever anybody gets cancer, it's a horrible thing to hear, and I can only imagine what her family is going through right now. I hope that they can do everything they can for her and she's able to recover.
I would like to wish Kate a speedy recovery because she's a mother, and I don't care what the press have done, I don't care that she's royal. The fact is that she's a mother, and I want her to get better so she's there for her children.
1 minute to the answer.
And this is and that is it for us on this very busy Friday. I'm Andrew Nichols in Toronto. Of course, stay with CBC News Network for the very latest on the Princess of Wales cancer diagnosis. Hillary, good of you to be with us this week. Thank you for being there, and to our viewers, thank you as well.
And Andrew, thank you for having me. A very, very busy news day on this Friday. Of course, we hope that our viewers do have a nice weekend. I'm Hilary Johnstone in Ottawa. We'll both be seeing you on Monday. We do leave you once again with these images out of Moscow, where at least 40 people have been killed and more than 100 injured after gunmen opened fire at a concert hall near the city. We'll have much more news for you straight ahead. You're watching CBC News Network.